Well, Ireland have been sensational, and Zimbabwe are going to need something very, very special in this second one-day international live from the HSC. Josh Little has made history here, Irish history, today by taking 6 wickets, just the second Irishman to ever do it. His first 5-wicket haul in any international cricket, finishes with 6 for 36, blitzing Zimbabwe away, firstly with the new ball and then with the old. 10 overs, 2 maidens, 6 for 36, exceptional. Good stuff from Mark Adair, Craig Young and McBride and Tector with the other wickets. $167 to win, Ireland will require. They'll be looking to do it to move 1-0 up in the series. Remember, the first one-day international washed out Andrew Balbirnie. He's going to open up alongside Paul Stirling, the regular opening pairing. Neither in particularly good form in the T20Is, but now they get a chance to bat in the different format for the first time. Very good career numbers, both Stirling and Balbirnie, averaging over 30 with 800s, and Paul Stirling, Ireland's leading run scorer in their history. 5,623 runs, 14 centuries for him, a good conversion rate too. And he is simply Ireland's best ever in this format. Richard Ngarava is going to take the new ball. Him and Blessing Mazurabani will have been enthused by Little's performance, and they'll feel there's something in the surface for them to work with. And we do have a little bit of news as well. Ryan Burrell has been ruled out with that head injury. I think it's a delayed concussion that he's been. Bowls him straight through. What a start! It's Ngarava doing a Josh Little and a 1-2 triple pump of the air. Tino Moeo's with me. The dream start for Zimbabwe.
Dream start indeed. I don't think that ball's done too much. He should have been forward, especially on a surface that we've seen is not bouncing all that much. It's just straight up and down. Should have been forward to that length. Gotta have a strike straight away for Zimbabwe after the lunch break. Andy Balbirnie, the former captain, goes for none. It's 0 for 1.
Curtis Camphor, Ireland's new number 3. We've seen Andy McBride in that position. We also saw Andrew Balbirnie in that position this year. They're going to decide, as we saw in the England ODI series, that Curtis Camphor's the man at 1 down. And a really good start to his ODI career, making a couple of 50s against England at the Rose Bowl in Southampton. But a disastrous start for the chase for Ireland, losing Andy Balbirnie from the first ball. No surprise that it was Ngarava who, as it seems to be the way so much this year, delivers the big wicket.
Lots of excitement for Sikandar Raza. That first slip. This would have been what the chat would have been before they went out. Early wickets, gentlemen, and we might have an opportunity here.
Full ball. hits him outside the line of leg stump and going to go on and swing to miss the leg stump too. There's been quite a bit in this series, isn't there? We just saw Ngarava's celebrations there, the triple pump of the air. There was some fancy hand movements too. Good friends off the field, these two, but there's a fierce rivalry on it.
Yeah, he's explained the celebration with the, looks like a snake or something like that. I just can't remember what the explanation was.
Oh my, so nearly a second wicket. You didn't feel that this was going to be an easy wicket to bat on today. You felt that batting first might have been an understandable decision. Doesn't look to be getting any easier.
Yeah, just when I looked at the surface, I wasn't convinced that this wicket would be bouncing truly through to the keeper all day. We've seen it already from the early overs. That one certainly bounced.
We saw a few in that abridged first ODI rear up into the gloves of Innocent Kaia. That's why he's missed out. Here is a look at the wicket. It was the cracks in particular that you
yeah, it
saw.
was that. So that's from the end where we're sitting, the golf course end, going towards the city end. And just that area is on a good length to the seamers. And that really, just looking at that, to me this morning, said it's not going to last the majority of the day bouncing through and being true to the keeper. And I think that's why Sikandar Raza talked about the extra spinner, Wellington Masakadza, who's replaced Luke Jongwe in today's playing 11.
Beautiful cover drive. Paul Sterling at his vintage very best to round out the first over with a boundary. Ireland 5 for 1. Plenty of depth to the Irish batting with Andy McBride, who opened in the Cricket World Cup qualifier all the way down at number 8. Graham Hume, no mug himself either, at number 9. Ireland will not want it to get there. For Zimbabwe to get into that lower middle order, they're going to need Muzarabani and Ngarava to strike well with that new ball. The two of them over the last, you'll tell me better, 18 to 24 months have just been exceptional, haven't they, the two openers?
They have indeed. I would go as far as saying that Ngarava's been a notch ahead of Muzarabani. Muzarabani's obviously done well for himself over the last few years. He gets picked for a lot of these leagues around the world and plays a lot of cricket constantly. So sometimes his body just gives up on him. He spends some time away, hasn't been in the side up until those T20 World Cup qualifiers in Namibia. But just having a chat with him, he was full of praise of his opening partner, Ngarava, and just talking about how he's come on in leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. If you go back 2 years from now, Muzarabani used to love bowling from the golf course end. He would take the first over, but the fact that he's allowed his partner just shows you that he probably is just saying he's in better nick than me at the moment. He's doing the job. Let him pick where he wants to bowl from.
I think possibly the most exciting thing for Zimbabwean cricket is they're just 27 and 25 years of age. So there's every chance for these two to go on and open the bowling for Zimbabwe for the best part of the next decade. They've got a good set of experience, set of skills for international cricket. Muzarabani's debut back in 2017, the same as Ngarava. And I think they're bowling as well as they've ever bowled. Shades of some of the great West Indian attacks of old with the new ball. Now, I was just trying to tell you before the first ball, Tino, we do have a an update to give you. Ryan Burrell was struck in the helmet in the first innings. I thought it was a very nasty blow. You can see there, didn't really go anywhere. And at one point you saw him batting take quite a while to come back to his feet. He has been officially replaced. The new protocol, the ICC protocol, allows for a concussion replacement. Tony Munyanga has come in as a like for like. Does bowl a few part-time off breaks, maybe not to the same quality as Burrell's leg spin, but he will be allowed to play a full part. That's not just a sub-fielder, Tino. If Sikandar Raza would like Munyanga to bowl, he can, and we wish Ryan Burrell well. But another injury, Tino, and you'd have to say, I think by the protocols, Burrell won't be able to play the third and final ODI now.
More than likely not. Zimbabwe have got a multitude of injuries at the moment. It just complicates their situation because, yes, Sunday the series comes to an end, but just a couple of weeks from now, they depart for Sri Lanka. 3 ODIs and 3 T20s starting in the first week of January. Great bit of fielding. Wellington Masakadza, I beg your pardon. It's gone to his right hand, which is his weaker side.
Yeah, stunning stop from Masakadza. Top scored in the first innings, really justifying his recall. He'll have work to do with the ball too. Definitely some indifferent bouncer. Variable. 2 have been bowled at 7 for 1. Camphor runs that down. Tina, you were asking me earlier about how many ODIs Ireland have played. They're 197th today. Look at that number there. Paul Sterling has been almost ever present in them, played 158 of them. What a servant he's been to Irish cricket.
He's been outstanding, hasn't he? I think you can say over the last 4 or 5 years you've seen his growth, especially in this format. I've seen him mature. We used to walk out there and try and muscle everything to the boundary. He's changed. Pitching outside the leg stump. And there was a time where he would walk out in one-day cricket and try and go from ball 1. And then maybe try and settle down in the innings later, if he does get a good start. But we're talking about those centuries, 14 in one-day international cricket. Wouldn't have got those, especially the more recent ones, if he hadn't changed his approach in this format in particular.
You're spot on, and I think one of the reasons you're spot on is also the change in the dynamic of the way ODI cricket is played. He'll have spent the first 8 or 9 years of his ODI career. Beauty angling across from Richard Engarava with 1 new ball in play that was then changed around the 35th over. They used to get discoloured and they would change it, but now it's 2 new balls. So sometimes, as we saw in the recently concluded Cricket World Cup in India, the exception really of Rohit Sharma, who got off to flying starts, many of the openers a little bit more cautious, recognising the fact that there's 2 new balls in play, and that maybe in the first power play for those first 10 overs only 2 fielders are allowed outside the circle. If you can stay wicketless, that's quite a good result. He is much more cautious. Often we'll see Sterling now in the first 10 being 20 off 35 balls, but then he has all that power, that skill from T20 cricket to catch up. And I think you're right, the vast majority of those 14 tons have come in more recent times.
Yeah, the width was there, and a man who's looking as good as Paul Sterling is not going to miss out on that. He's probably looking to go a lot straighter, more over the top of cover, extra cover. Thickish outside edge because the ball was so wide outside the off stump, but he gets the boundary nonetheless.
He just loves width, doesn't he? He cannot give Sterling width outside the off stump. It's not quite out of the middle, you're right. More than effective enough to get 4, as every boundary is greeted by an eerie silence across the HSC. Not the carnival festival atmosphere we've been used to over much of the year. Down the leg side, it's going to be a wide. Will be 2 freebies unless it's flicked the pad. It has. Be given as a leg bye to close out the first over. 13 for 1. Ireland try to rebuild after that loss of Andrew Balbirnie from the very first delivery of the game. A beauty from Richard Ngarava, cleaning up the former captain and the current captain. He's just getting into his work. 2 boundaries thus far. Tino, I just want to build upon what you're talking about Paul Sterling. He debuted in ODI cricket as a 17-year-old. Precocious young talent. And the team, the Irish team that day against New Zealand and Aberdeen, all the way back in 2008, feels like a different generation of the game. There's nobody even close to still playing in the Irish lineup from that day. Gary Wilson, in fact, is the assistant coach here. He was opening the batting that day as Ireland were thumped by 290 runs by Zimbabwe. By New Zealand, correction. But he was always spotted from a very young age as being maybe one of the most precocious talents we've ever produced. Went over to play a Middlesex second 11 game at the age of 17. Scored 80 in his very first game, and they offered him a professional contract that same match. And he was ever present in the Middlesex team for over a decade. And I don't think you can help but learn at the home of cricket at Lords, alongside the likes of Owen Morgan. David Milan, he will have played a lot of cricket with. Tim Murtagh, of course, his former Irish teammate too. He's worth his weight in gold for Irish cricket, the new permanent captain.
Such an illustrious career in Irish colours. Thank you for giving us a bit of background to the beginning of his career and how he's made his way to being the captain of the Irish side.
He's actually closing in across all formats on 10,000 runs, Sterling. And I think the innings of all of those you see there on your screen, Tina, the one he'll value the most was the one earlier this year. I think you were there in Sri Lanka for it, when he made his maiden Test match century. Has to be the only Test match century, or certainly maiden one, that came in 2 different days. And he went off with cramp when he was in the 70s. I think it was 36, 38 degrees, 90% humidity.
It was ridiculously hot and humid down in Gaul. And he fought like a bull. Came to the end of the first day and could literally not move with cramps in both legs. I think he had cramp in his calf, he had cramp in his quad, he had cramp in his hamstring.
He did the Glenn Maxwell before Maxwell did it, didn't he? He was in full spasm on the ground.
No run!
But he'll put his body on the line for his country. There's no doubt about that. 4 have been bowled, 13 for 1. Well, after that initial jubilation from the first ball of the innings, just the second time an Irishman has been out from the first ball of an ODI innings. Nothing doing yet for Zimbabwe, but Ngarava is probing away, looking very threatening. The shortened list for the IPL has come out. I think about 330 players left in it. The 2 opening Zimbabwean bowlers both are in that list. Is there a chance for Muzarabani or maybe even Ngarava to join Sikandar Raza that IPL?
I would think possibly more of an opportunity for Ngarava. I think he really has been outstanding in Zimbabwean colours. Cut away, but that'll go straight to Muzarabani just for the single. He was picked in the Lankan Premier League earlier on in the year as well as the Caribbean Premier League. So certainly getting recognition for the performances he's been putting out there in Zimbabwean colours. Most men's wickets in 2023 in T20 international cricket. He's right up there. 26 wickets with Mark Adair, leading wicket takers in that format. So that certainly would have allowed and raised the eyebrows of a lot of people around the world.
Yeah, also Arshdeep Singh up there with 26. All 3 of them finished the year with 26. Most amongst the full members in the T20I game, but it's the economy rate that really stands out for me. And within those numbers, I know we're in a different format here, but going at less than a run a ball. So it's not just the wicket-taking threat, but also very economical. As this one shapes back in significantly, Sterling happy with the single. It's his short ball that kind of gets the attention because of the impact of that and the surprise nature. But he is very capable of moving it back into the right-handers, as we saw there.
It actually used to be a stock delivery when he was a lot younger. Played club cricket against him many years when he was still a high school boy at Churchill. That's produced many a cricketer for Zimbabwe. Your Hamilton Masakadzes, Shirt Matsikinyeri, Tatenda Taibu, Alton Chigumbura, Prosper Otseya come to mind. Then he was genuinely a big in-swing bowler. As I started to see him a little bit later on in life in his career, just started to take the ball across the right-hander more as opposed to swinging it back in. And I think that's better, because if you're going across the right-hander, one, you can drag his head across, and then that ball coming back in is a surprise. In the air, shouts of catch it. Won't carry to a Wellington Masakadze. End of the 5th over, 15 for 1.
Ireland happy to start slowly. They'll just want to keep that wickets column, that one or maybe a worst case two over the course of this first session before that first drinks break. Paul Sterling, as he is so often, will be integral to this chase. Might not be the easiest, despite it being very much under par. Just 166 the required target to win.
No run!
Talking there about Richard Ngarava, how he's been discovered and how he's come through. Is there still the same scale of talent across Zimbabwean cricket? The 5 franchise sides seem to be stock full of very promising players, but that transition from that level up to international still seems to be a bridge.
So, that's exactly it. It's a lot of talent that's out there, but it's the pathway to getting them to international cricket that I feel needs to be addressed. Now you can have great under-19 cricketers going in from school, and you lose some to tertiary education. That's always happened. But crucial to get the pathway right in terms of how club cricket feeds into the provincial setup, and how the provincial setups feed into your domestic setup, and then from your domestic setup into representative teams, and then into your national side. So talent's not a problem, and I don't believe it ever has been in Zimbabwe. It's just making sure that the next batch of cricketers get a good pathway and are prepared for the next level at international.
Played a missed by Camphor, as he seems to be struggling with that extra bounce from Muzarabani. It's something that's talked about an awful lot in Irish cricket, the lack of a Wolves programme, or the lack of Irish A-team cricket. That's what the A-team are called. There was an emerging side that went out to the West Indies recently for about a 3-week tour in Antigua. They were on the back end of some very heavy defeats from a West Indies academy team. Marie Cummins, one of the few standouts on that trip, making a century. We saw him in ODI action, making his ODI debut earlier in the year. Is there much Zimbabwe A cricket played as they'll get through for the single here? We know the Pakistan Shaheens, the A team, came down, but they were playing against a full Zimbabwe side.
I'll come back to that. I just want to make a comment on you saying that you had some heavy defeats to West Indies university side, did you say? I think that's okay, because that allows them to understand what level they're at and what the next levels are and what's expected of them. And so that's why it's so important to be getting the next batch of cricketers to be going away and playing in other countries in different conditions against those level cricketers. So A-team cricket is something that's hugely important in the Zimbabwean setup. Yes, the Shaheens were here in May. They played against a full Zimbabwe A side in the 2 4-day matches, and then the 6 one-day matches were used as preparation for the qualifier, which was just 3 weeks away. In October, the Zimbabwe A team toured South Africa, played against the South Africa A side there in some one-day cricket. So it's definitely an effort to make sure that there's more A-team cricket for the Zimbabweans. We can carry on with that conversation. 6 gone, 17 for 1.
And Ngarava's going to continue. No surprise to see that. Zimbabwe want wickets, and they want them in this first power play. Camphor's looked less comfortable than Sterling, but he's still there.
No run!
Ngarava looks for the Yorker, but can't quite pitch it. Just talking about the pathways through for both these sides. There's so many similarities Irish and Zimbabwean cricket share. I think that's why they're so closely matched. You see the backroom staff there, the likes of Ryan Eagleson, the bowling coach, alongside Chris Siddle, the manager. Heinrich Milan always seems to be in the background. He's the head coach alongside Gary Wilson, the assistant. Brendan Connor, the S&C as well on the left. But for Ireland, they're almost trying to follow, to walk in the footsteps of Zimbabwe. Because it's a similar structure that they're trying to implement. There's 5 franchise sides here, there's 4 in Ireland. And from my knowledge of both of them, I think the depth in Zimbabwe would be much stronger and of a much higher quality. The facilities that you have here, certainly with the excellent turf wickets all across the country, very much the envy of Irish fans and Irish administrators as well. So I think what's beneath the 15 or 16 or 17 we've seen in total here in Zimbabwe for Ireland, this is slashed away. It's going to go fine enough to kiss into the rope and get 4. Man at deep third was very, very square, and Camphor will get a boundary, albeit off the outside edge.
Yeah, just loosens the shackles a little bit for Curtis Camphor here. Not quite the length you want to be driving at. Just feel he's been kept so quiet for so long compared to the innings that we have seen in the tour for him so far, and just felt he needed to go at one. Still a couple of slips in for Ngarawa. Skandaraza backing his bowler, and he needs to have those catches in. They need wickets, Zimbabwe.
Lost his run up again for the 2nd time in the over. But yeah, I think certainly the depth outside of this Irish squad really isn't there right now, and that will be a concern for, well, 4 or 5 or 6 years down the line. The oldest players in this squad are Balbirnie and Sterling, who both certainly will have at least a full cycle ahead of them, you'd think, for the next 4 years. Just had a conversation with Dom Bess, the English Test player who's overplaying for one of the franchises. That's something Zimbabwe cricket does really well, bringing overseas players into that. He's been blown away by the quality and the amount of talent in the Zimbabwean domestic game. Is it a game awareness challenge, an exposure challenge, just up that level?
Yeah, like I said, for me it's exposure. To hear words like that from a former English Test cricketer. Oh, beauty. I think bodes well. Like I said, I don't think it's a lack of talent in Zimbabwe at all. It's just ensuring that you've got the right structures in place to ensure that the player goes through the correct pathway in terms of preparation for international cricket. Look at Brian Bennett, for example. He's played a season and a half of domestic cricket. He's shown great potential. He's given an opportunity in the national side. Is he quite ready for that yet? Probably not. Plays 2 T20 internationals, gets dropped from the side. What does that do to the confidence of the young man? He's played 6 list A matches, 172 runs. His first class matches. Played 216 runs, including a century. So that's good. Shows great potential in the young man. Just 20 years of age as well. Inside edge. And that should run away for 4. The call is 2 from Sterling. They won't need to come back because it's gone. Fine of the fine leg fielder for 4. Perfect end to the 7th over. 25 for 1.
Okay, the Manhattans are very similar to where Zimbabwe were, but very circumspect in where they're trying to score. That was a lucky or fortunate. Boundary down to fine leg. Raza, when will he get an opportunity with the ball in hand? He can't be too far away. They've got to make something happen with the ball. Chivanga as well as on the side today. So maintaining the one slip and then a catching cover. Yeah, nice delivery. Really good. And this is the strength of a Blessing Mzarabani, because you think the ball's just going to keep coming back at you and then it holds its line.
Yeah, it's something that you've seen become more prominent as he's progressed. Generally, he used to just angle them into right-handers. And then it's really deliberate. It's a sign, good sign as well, I think, because it means he's working at his game away from just playing. And that's Tanaka Chivanga into this squad after a while away from the Zimbabwe team.
I mentioned just at the beginning of this commentary stint how it's been a very watchful start by Ireland, but also a very difficult period for the two Irish batters to get the bowlers away. So Zimbabwe not just rolling over and dishing up deliveries where the Irish can score freely. They've been really good with their concentration of their deliveries in a good area, and they've asked a number of questions.
Yeah, Ed, I think you're right, and I think it's also important that has to be a change coming soon. Just want to make sure that you don't settle into a routine or too much sameness. Give a couple of other bowlers an opportunity early here, because you can always bring Zarabani or Ngaraba back, and it might just be a good idea to maybe get Brandon Mavut as an option, maybe Tanaka Chivanga, who we saw earlier, and Skandar Raza himself, who's also had a very, very good run in the last 18 months with the ball.
Interesting move to have Kamfer batting at 3. He's listening to the first set of commentators. Andrew Leonard talking about his new role of his batting at 3 in ODIs. Definitely has the ability. Curtis Kamfer showing everyone talks about the period. How some of these players that have stood out in the last 12 to 18 months. Right, very quiet over comes to an end, 26 for 1. .141 runs required after Zimbabwe were bowled out for 166, and courtesy of a 6 by Josh Little, who bowled superbly today from the golf course end. Made things happen. That's what Zimbabwe needs. They need to make something happen, try and get into this middle order and really make inroads into their batting lineup that Ireland possess. Gosh, running repairs to the eye. I think even an insect had flown in there.
Tanaka Chivanga, Dr. Tanaka Chivanga at the moment. Just helps out Richard Ngaraba.
as we start dissecting this batting innings, almost go back to the Zimbabwe innings, where once you hit that really good length, it's very difficult. Very good length and the line very straight. It's been very difficult to get away. You can just see how disciplined Zimbabwe have been, whereas in the comparison to this particular stage, Ireland had Zimbabwe 25 for 4. That's when they'll swing, seam on off, a change of angle now around the wicket. Slashes over backward point, work for Muzarabani, who does very well. And so, almost on cue, as you just become adventurous with your line and your length, that's a really wide delivery, room and width on offer, and becomes quite easy to score.
Always been a problem here. I guess at Harare Sports Club, bowling second does really seem to settle into a better batting wicket in the afternoon.
Paul Stirling is the one that is the captain of the Ireland side. He's the one that mentioned on a number of occasions that they want to leave Zimbabwe shores with a series win. They don't. Every time they've come here, they've always been one down and then fight back, and then Zimbabwe win the series. But very resolute in his conversations that they're here to win the series. You can see in their efforts in the field. You can see with the way he's going about his work, he's generally a runner ball or better. 13 of 29, and I've mentioned how well Zimbabwe have bowled, but he's just allowed them to settle into a line and length because he's trying to play the long game and the bigger picture game.
167 as a target doesn't really put any scoreboard pressure on Ireland.
Oh, has that been put down? I think it has. I think there's some glove there.
Joylord Gumbi just gets a fingertip onto this one. Just enough to stop it from running to the boundary. And he's grimacing, which suggests he believes he should have held on to that one. Very difficult chance. Had to go quite a long way to his left, but should have picked it up.
Dry smile. There's one gone a begging. Adande through the T20s at the gloves. He's standing at a short mid-wicket. Now the probing over. 29 for 1. Had rain a few days ago, torrential rain. Today the rain has stayed away. Some high clouds. It's been actually quite a pleasant day. It's warmed up beautifully. Whatever moisture was out in the surface has firmly dissipated. Has made things quite a docile wicket in terms of batting. But however, these two bowlers, these opening bowlers, have been fantastic in their lines and their lengths and their pressure that they've been able to create. Short catching cover, a slip still maintained for Muzarabani. Ooh, that comes back. Feet don't go anywhere because it's such a good line and length. You're not really sure whether to go forward or back. It goes in between the bat and the pads. Let's have a look at this opportunity again. Yeah, off the glove, definitely.
Done well to get there. Going down towards the leg side with the angle that Ngara was bowling. He's had to cover quite a lot of ground together. Just couldn't get it in that catching mitt.
Bowled! The first one swung back, the feet didn't move, it went between bat and pad and missed the stumps. This time, he just makes a very subtle adjustment to his line, brings it a little bit closer, and it goes straight through the gate, and now Zimbabwe have picked up their second.
Beautiful bowling from Blessing Mzarabani. Just 5 runs off his batting so far, and there he is behind the line. So this is a legitimate delivery, and just a little bit of shape to get past the inside edge of Paul Sterling's bat. So as it is, the Irish captain has to depart. Paul Sterling's gone for 14 of 32, and it's 29 for 2.
Big breakthrough, brings a big player. Harry Tector. Some fantastic numbers there, but he's out there due to some fantastic bowling.
It's a beauty from Blessing Mzarabani. Perfect fast bowler's wicket. Hit the top of off stump, little bit of movement in. It set it up beautifully as bowled. A couple of deliveries leaving Paul Sterling, and then got a couple to come back. And one hit the top of off stump.
These two opening bowlers have done a fantastic job for Zimbabwe just to keep things tight. And been able to pick up 2 big wickets. Alberni being the first, and then Sterling after a little bit of a partnership. But it's been unrelenting, the accuracy and the consistency, and whatever's been on offer on this pitch and through the air, they've made use of. So put down in the previous over was Sterling, and this time, in this particular over, Mzarabani has his way.
Harry Tector was man of the match in the recently concluded T20 series. And what he generally tended to do was be the limpet, the linchpin that everybody could bat around. So this is his ODI career, 42 matches at an average of 47. That is good. It was made in 100 here in Zimbabwe in January. It was a good 100.
All the serious numbers, those. In 42 matches, to score 400s, 1150s, an average of 47 in ODI cricket. Very, very good numbers. Wicket maiden, 29 for 2. Power play done. Into the power play 2. There's power play 1. Comparisons. Zimbabwe, that's where their back was broken. 4 for 26 in the first 10. But still keeping things pretty tight. Ireland 29 for 2. 2 really experienced players to go. So here's the bowling change. Tanaka Chivanga. 7 matches. Oh, that's nice. And that's me being absolutely impartial to the fast bowlers. Comes out the hand, bounce, pace, knew nothing about it.
That is good gas. He's had a really good season in Pro 50 cricket, domestic cricket. Taking a lot of wickets, and it's just that extra pace that he possesses. It's been a real weapon for him.
That's lifted off a length. And that sets the tone for his spell. It sets a little bit of hostility and thought into the mind of the batter here. In the air. Doesn't get the timing. Again goes with the short delivery.
Some highlights from the power play. First ball of the match, Richard Ngarava got through the defences of Balbirnie. And that is Paul Sterling. Vintage Paul Sterling, looked like for a while. A couple off the outside edge, Richard Ngarava. And then one off the inside edge. The bowling of Richard Ngarava. And this was the drop catch. And Jolo Gumbi did well to get there before Blessing Mzarabani got a little bit of movement.
That's put away. I was in cue and in sync with the first power play. It's a short delivery. This time it's played really nicely. Curtis Camphor. The show has started with 3 short deliveries. First 2 surprised the batter, and the third one becomes a very easy scoring boundary. We've seen that the length that Ngarava and Mzarabani have bowled, that really good 7 meter, 6 meter length at the stumps, the line at around off stump, because that's what's brought the bowls and the played ons or the inside edges. Width is where you're punished. And you can't bowl there. It's both sides of the wicket. And showing his full hand now is Chavanga, and this is what I'm talking about, Darlington, in terms of the hostility of the first ball tells you up for the contest. But with the way the field is set and the extra bit of pace that you're now generating and the width makes it very easy for the batter.
Helps himself, does Curtis Camphor. Made no effort to keep that one down. And suddenly he's just accelerated, got his strike rate, which was in the 50s, up to 85.
And goes again. All the pressure, all the hard work of that power play. 29 for 2 at the end of the power play. In just 5 deliveries, that's equated now to 14 runs off this over. So a great deal of hard work and pressure has been released. That's the line, that's the length. The damage is done. 15 off the over. 44 for 2. Two opening bowlers did a fantastic job picking up a wicket apiece. Tanagachivanga into the attack. His first over goes for 15. Zarabani will continue. Have very good figures. Just 1 for 5 and 5 overs with 2 maidens.
Right on!
I was of the opinion maybe just bringing Raza into the attack, because I think he's a genuine wicket taker.
Yeah, I do agree with you. But I also want to make sure that Mzarabani probably not going to get 2 spells here. Just want to make sure if he can do it, you just bowl him as long as you can. Get him through maybe 7 or 8 overs before you make a change at the city end. Try and pick up another one. And it also helps to maintain the pressure he's created.
Outside edge. Nearly another opportunity. A second slip maybe would have gobbled that up. It's a bit of an effort by Raza, but he had to move a long way to try and hold on to this.
Again, beautifully bowled by Blessing Mzarabani. He's been angling them in most of the time, and this one is left Curtis Kamfer. And just a little too much work for Raza to do.
With again. And 4 again.
A little surprising for me from Blessing Mzarabani. It's been very, very good today. It's the first really bad delivery he's bowled this afternoon. And Curtis Kamfer loves it in that area, puts it away.
He's almost earned the right now to start playing a few shots, even though that some of the deliveries have had width on it. He's had to go through that difficult initial 10 overs from Ngara and Muzarabani, and now he's just opening up a bit more.
No!
And I guess that's what you do on a surface like this, when the bowling is good. Get through those difficult periods, and then, as I mentioned, earn the right to start scoring your runs. The 50s come up off that particular boundary.
For the first time in this match, Curtis Kamfer has got more runs than balls faced. Strike rate around 110.
Yeah, missing Ryan Bill, so they won't have his leg spin available. They've got Wellington Masakadza. If you turn to him in what has become a narrative that's used a lot in international cricket in terms of matchups, go with the left arm spin.
Right on! No!
8 off the over. 52 for 2. Yeah, Zim won the toss, decided to bat. 166 is what they got. Best figures for an Irish bowler. Josh Little, 6 for 36 in his 10. Ireland 52 for 2. They've gone through a difficult period, but now the shackles have become a little bit loose. They look to get 115 runs. Nice delivery, but it stays down. A little concern there for the batter.
Finally gets one in the right slot, Tanagachivanga, and this one has gotten through to Joylord Gumbi on the second bounce. Not a good sign for Irish batters.
Wait!
Spoke about how Chivanga was very good this season in the Pro 50 domestically.
Nine matches, 15 wickets, economy of 5. Trevor Gwandu, who debuted in the T20, was second on that list with 17 wickets from just 8 games. But it's Tapua Mufudza of Eagles at the top of the list with 18 wickets.
Mufudza, the off spinner. It's been good for a number of years, hasn't he? Domestically, when he get his opportunity. Because you look at those numbers, and you look at the selection, it's quite consistent with some of the names on that list, with the Brandon Mabuta, who's also doing it with the bat. Chivanga, Gwandu was in the T20s.
Another good delivery from Chivanga. He seems to have found his rhythm and length now. This one is left Harry Tikta quite late. But Ed, I think Tapua Mufudza's difficulties been the presence of Sikandar Raza, who bowls generally is 10 overs in almost every match that he plays, every 50 overs match that he plays, considered an off spinner. And so he gets in usually as your, particularly in the last 18 months, as your premier batsman who bowls a full 10 overs of off spin. So Tapua Mufudza doesn't really get into his side because of that.
Based on him being an off spinner or him being a spinner? Because you have Wellington Masakadze as well. You got Brandon Maputa as well. Unless Mufudza is the latter in the batting. Doesn't offer you that little bit of length to the batting.
Absolutely right. Doesn't really add to the batting. Wellington Masakadze got 40 odd this morning. Very useful at the back end of an innings.
Pressure. 9 deliveries it's taken to get that single. 53 for 2.
.53 for 2. Last 4 or so overs. Scoring rate has just picked up for Ireland. Chivanga, his 2 overs have gone for 16. His first included 3 boundaries, so he's improved in that last over. Brandon Mavuta will come into the attack. Good move from Sikandar Raza. Seamers are just starting to look a little bit ineffective. Straight away to the leg spinner. Oh, inside edge off the bat. Eyebrows raised. First ball. Gives me an opportunity to say very good afternoon to my co-commentator Stanley.
Good afternoon, Gino. An interesting start from Brandon Mavuta. That one not turning as much as the batter would have wanted to. And then this one does. Just getting the thick outside edge, and that one just going to the fielder point. A timely move by Sikandar Raza to bring a premium leg spinner into action at this moment. And it's the search for wickets, a play and a miss. And this is what he brings to the table, does Brandon Mavuta. This one slightly quicker. It hasn't turned. Could have easily gotten the outside edge on another day.
Now Sikandaraza and Zimbabwean change room would love a breakthrough here. Definitely some purchase in the pitch coming from the spin bowlers. Just bowling with a bit of width at the moment. Needs to settle in quickly to the desired line and length. Again, forced behind square. He's called for 2 and he'll get there because Madande is right-handed, so has to move his body around the ball before he can collect. 14 gone, 56 for 2. Chivanga will continue from the golf course end. Young, energetic, got good pace about him, just needs to be a bit more accurate. And sliding down the leg side.
He's become a different bowler. It's as if there's 2 people in action, 2 versions of Chivanga. This one sliding down the leg side. His first over, he was operating massively on that short length, perhaps thinking more of pace than accuracy. His second over, a whole different world altogether, different bowler. And he's gone fuller this time, much better. Try and use that dryness, the invariable bounce that is on offer off the surface on a fuller length as opposed to that heavy back of a length too short. So he's learned quickly, but he's learned painfully, because that over, the first one, went for 15 runs.
Right on.
That's where he needs to be. And that is good bowling, much better. Drawing the batsman forward into the shot. Should there ever be movement from that line, either in or out. But the important thing is you consistently, and that's where you want to be bowling, to try and draw the batsman into the shot.
Waist height. By the time it reaches the batsman.
We'll take a side view of that. Full toss. And rightfully so. Good decision from Foster Matizwa. I suppose you can expect this every now.
Just leaning on that into the extra cover gap.
Just the one more delivery to come 4 runs off.
as there were a couple of early wickets in the Irish innings, but at the moment looking comfortable. Partnership of 31 between these two.
Behind square on the offside, but predominantly it's because also of the line that Brandon Mafuta is starting his delivery at. Just touch of 5th, 6th stump. In that line, in that length.